today we're going to find out how to shrink the pores on our face. 5 reasons for enlarged pores, and then we're going to understand how to tackle each of these 5 reasons. Very quickly through what a pore is. Now, pore, it starts in the deeper layers of the skin, which is a dermis layer of the skin. It starts off like a bowl shape and then gets changed into a tube shape and then comes up into the visible layer of the skin. There are 2 important things that it does. Number 1, it carries oil, the sebum, from the deeper layers of the skin and brings it to the visible layer of the skin. Number 2, hair follicles starts from the deeper layers of the skin and they travel and they pop out into the visible layer of the skin through the pore. By minimizing the appearance of pores, it looks like we're shrinking the pores, and so it becomes less obvious, less visible. So that's what we're going to try and understand how we can do that. Number 1 is the support structure that's around the pores. So, just like I mentioned in the earlier part of the video, the pores, it's got a bowl-like structure at the bottom and then becomes a tube at the top. As it travels up the top, it becomes a tube. Now, the bowl-like structure is held in its place by all the support, by all the components and the ingredients that's around this bowl-like structure. Now, those ones are called the support structure. It holds it in its place. What is it primarily made up of? Primarily made up of collagen and 𝗙𝗥𝗘𝗘. This is in the deeper layers of skin, which is the dermis layer of the skin. So collagen and 𝗙𝗥𝗘𝗘, all of them together hold this bowl in its place. Now imagine this. If the support structure is compromised, if the quantity or the quality of the support structure is reduced, this bowl-like structure is not held in its place. So it starts to sag and sag. And as it sags, everything at the top also dilates and the pore becomes more visible. So the support structure has to be strong and the right quantity. Only then it can hold the pore in its place, the bowl-like structure at the bottom in its place. And only when it's held it in its place, everything at the top stays the way it should and the opening is just the right size. So we have to concentrate and make sure that the support structure, the quantity and the quality is all well and good. How do we do this? 2 ways. Number 1, we protect what we already have. Number 2, we boost the support structure. Now, we don't have to be a rocket scientist to say, yes, we can boost, but that will take some work. First thing we need to do is actually protect what we have. Why should we lose what we have? Now, that's the easiest way, right? Yes, it is. So how do we protect what we already have? What do I actually mean by protect what we have? See, there are 2 reasons why what we already have gets damaged. Number 1 is age. We can't worry about age, so let it go. Number 2, sun's UV radiation, it enters the deeper layers of the skin and damages this collagen. It damages the support structure. So the quantity is gone, it's reduced, and the quality is gone, and the skin starts to sag, support structure is compromised, the pores are all dilating, appearance becomes big. So how do we make sure that that doesn't happen? We apply sunscreen, and we reapply sunscreen at regular intervals. Any type of sunscreen? No. Broad spectrum sunscreen, because that is the only sunscreen which will protect you from the UVA radiation. UVA radiation is the one that's getting into the deeper layers of the skin to damage this collagen. So we need protection against sun's UVA radiation. So how do we protect what we already have? We apply sunscreen at regular intervals. So that makes sure that the collagen and the hyaluronic acid and all the other 𝗙𝗥𝗘𝗘s in there in the support structure are all intact. Number 2 is we boost the support structure. How do we do that? We use skincare products which have got ingredients that can boost the support structure. Now, some of them are retinoids. Retinoids it's probably at the top of the list. They can actually boost the collagen production, so that's important. And then we've got other treatments that we can do for the skin, like microneedling and dermaplaning, and that can also boost the collagen production. And then certain skincare products which have got ingredients like niacinamide and vitamin C, they are shown to boost the collagen production. So these are the ways in which you can boost the collagen production. So the first reason for the enlarged pores was to make sure that the support structure is intact. And how do we do that? we make sure that we protect what we already have by applying sunscreen at regular intervals. And number 2, we constantly do things to boost the support structure, and we do that by using skincare products which have got ingredients which can boost the support structure. So that's my number 1. The second way is to actually decrease the oil production. So what do we mean by that? Now, at the bottom, which is a bowl shape, now imagine the sebaceous glands, which is actually pumping out the oil. It pumps out a lot of oil, so this bowl shape gets enlarged. So if we actually pump out less oil, only the amount of oil that's required and not excess oil, then this bowl shape is not enlarged. If the bowl shape is not enlarged, everything up there is not dilated too. So everything is in its place. So how do we do that? 2 easy ways to do that. Number 1, use skincare products which has got niacinamide in it, because research shows that niacinamide can control the production of sebum. Number 2, this one you're not going to like. Number 2 is to eat less sweets, less sugar. So what happens when you eat more sugar is the amount of insulin gets increased, and when insulin amount gets increased, it stimulates the production of sebum. So more sebum, more oil gets pumped out from the sebaceous glands, and that enlarges the bowl shape at the bottom, and that dilates everything up there as well. So less sugar. Not something you like, but it will have a big impact. Less sugar. The third reason for the appearance of these enlarged pores is clogging of the pores. So what basically happens is the bowl-like structure, which is how the pores look in the deeper layers of skin, it's a bowl-like structure, and that gets clogged with a lot of dirt, oil, that is also sebum, the hair follicles, and the leftover makeup and certain skincare ingredients. All that gets stored in there, it just clogs in there, and that enlarges this bowl-like structure. Once a bowl-like structure is enlarged, once that swells up because of all this clogging, the tube-like structure also dilates, and once the tube-like structure dilates, the pore, which is the opening in the visible layer of the skin, it appears larger. So what do you do? Number 1, there are a few things you can do. Let's start with the easiest one, makeup. Number 1 is a makeup. Whenever you apply any makeup, make sure you remove it at the end of your day. Otherwise, the ingredients will go and clog those pores. Number 2, be wary of certain skincare ingredients if they are comedogenic. What that means is they basically go and clog the pores. They do have some good benefits, but if you find they're clogging your pores more, if you're having any side effects, just be wary of those comedogenic skincare products, skincare ingredients. And number 3, make sure you cleanse your face regularly to get rid of all the dirt. And number 4, this is really important, and this is something which should become a part of your skincare routine at regular intervals. That is to exfoliate your skin using a chemical exfoliant. There are 2 types of chemical exfoliants. One is AHA, the other one is BHA. The one that we are interested today is a BHA. Example, salicylic acid. What this one does, when you apply that on your face, salicylic acid will go inside the pore and scoop out everything from inside the pore and get it out. See how effective that would be? It would just go in there, get rid of all the dirt and everything that's accumulated there, and it will completely unclog the pore. So once the pore is unclogged, the bowl-like structure back to its original shape, and then the tube and everything back to its original shape, the opening the way it should be, not enlarged. So unclog those pores. Makeup, be wary of certain skincare ingredients, cleanse your face, and use some BHA chemical exfoliant like salicylic acid, which is super duper effective because it goes inside, scoops out everything, and unclogs the pores. So that's the third reason why your pores might look enlarged. That is, the pores have got clogged. In the bottom, it's got clogged, it's got filled with all these unnecessary ingredients. Now, the fourth reason for enlarged pores is normalization of keratinization. What does that mean? Now, new cells get formed in the deeper layers of the skin, and they travel upwards and reach the visible layer of the skin, and then the old cells from the visible layer of the skin fall off and the new cells replace them. This should happen in a very smooth way. But sometimes some of these old cells, they're very stubborn. They refuse to fall off. So they get just stuck in there, and the visible layer of the skin, it just becomes thickened with all these stubborn old cells which are refusing to fall off, and once it gets thickened, the pores appear larger than they should. They appear larger, they become more obvious, they're more visible. So what do? You've got to get rid of these stubborn cells which are getting stuck in there. How do you do that? The best ways is to use a chemical exfoliant. Both AHA and a BHA will help you. There are two types of chemical exfoliants, AHA and BHA, and both are effective. Something like a lactic acid, glycolic acid, or you could use salicylic acid, and that's quite good. And another way is to use a treatment like microdermabrasion or dermaplaning that will also get rid of all these stubborn old cells which have just accumulated there and increase the thickness of the visible layer of the skin. And sometimes what happens is the new cells are not getting formed at the rate that they should. So there are less new cells traveling from the deeper layers of the skin. So when the less new cells are traveling upwards, that means the old cells just stay on the visible layer because they're not being replaced by anything. So you've got to boost the production of these new cells. How do you do that? Again, retinoids. You see, retinoids has appeared twice. First to increase the support structure, and now to increase the cellular turnover. That is to make new cells form at a higher rate. So yeah, so that's the normalization of keratinization. Basically, you just need to get rid of the old cells which are stubborn and staying on the top of the visible layer, and also boost the production of new cells, and retinoids can help you with that. Now, the final reason for the appearance of large pores is you squeezing the pores. Don't squeeze the pores, don't touch them, leave them alone. When you squeeze the pores, you're basically manipulating it and trying to change its shape and do something which you can't anyway, but you've disturbed the structure there, and because of that, the pores will appear larger. Don't do that. Just leave them, let them be. That is not the way to make them less visible. I've listed 4 other ways you can make them less visible. Do them and leave the pores alone. Don't touch them. Don't squeeze them. Hi ladies, did you know something else can increase the appearance of the pores? That's your menstruation cycle. When you're going through your periods, more progesterone during the ovulation. More progesterone means more increased sebum production, and that means more chances of clogging of the pores. So what do? Easy. Make sure you cleanse your skin regularly. Make sure your skin is free of all the dirt and there's no clogging of the pores. Use that exfoliation regularly. That's all. Now we're going to have a quick recap of the 5 things we discussed today. 5 ways in which we can reduce the appearance of the pores, minimize the appearance of the pores and make them less visible. The first way to make sure that you reduce the appearance, minimize the appearance of the enlarged pores is to boost the support structure. How do you do that? You make sure you protect what you already have. You do that by applying sunscreen at regular intervals, and you also boost the production of the support structure by using certain skincare ingredients like niacinamide, vitamin C and retinoids. This boosts the production of the support structure. Now the second way to minimize the appearance of the pores is to actually make sure that less oil is produced, less sebum production. How do you do that? Use certain ingredients like niacinamide in your skincare products. Then also less sugar, because sugar intake increases the sebum production. Now the third way in which you can minimize the appearance of the pores is to unclog the pores. The pores gets accumulated with a lot of dirt and everything. You need to unclog them. How do you do that? Make sure you remove your makeup all the time after the end of the day, and then make sure if there are certain skincare ingredients, especially the comedogenic skincare ingredients, are causing any clogging, don't use them. Cleanse your skin regularly, and the most effective way and the important way, all of them are effective, but an important thing that you need to make sure is a part of your skincare routine is to apply a BHA, a chemical exfoliant, which is a BHA like salicylic acid, because that goes in and unclogs the pores. Now the fourth way in which you can minimize the appearance of the enlarged pores is to make sure that you normalize the keratinization process. What does that mean? You exfoliate regularly using a chemical exfoliant if possible, either an AHA or a BHA like glycolic acid, lactic acid, salicylic acid, and also boost the production of new cells by using something like a retinoid, which boosts the production.